around 2021, you ended up making a drawing showcasing your stance, your stance on the political spectrum here. This I find to be very hilarious. There's you as the 2008 liberal, being slightly to the right compared to I guess a more progressive liberal. I don't know what you want to call them, but clearly showing that you're not on the political right. You're not on the political right. The line's right there. You are to the left of that. There's literally a blue line. You're standing right on it. But of course, you're an evil conservative Republican now. And then, of course, you have the second line in 2012. Right when some of these communities, right, started to go amok, Atheism Plus and a lot of other things. You have the other liberal running far to the left, you sticking to your values, but all of a sudden, that middle, that nice divide between right and left, you're right about to cross that border. And then, of course, in 2022, you are now an evil right winger. You have changed your views somehow, even though you have literally held the same positions you have always held. It's very unfortunate, but I'm glad to see that other people are seeing what you're talking about, especially through this drawing. Elon Musk, who recently acquired Twitter, he's about to acquire Twitter, right? The deal has been signed, it has been made. He ended up retweeting this cartoon. I'm very glad that everybody's giving you the credit that you deserve for making this. We actually, in that drawing, there is Colin Wright's Twitter handle @SwipeRight. You guys can go follow him there. I think this really showcases a frustration that a lot of other people have, that a lot of our own followers and supporters and members have. I remember seeing this as well through an atheist movement lens. When Elevator Gate happened, when Atheism Plus started to happen, I ended up sticking, and later on, once I got more into the movement myself, I stuck to my same views. I'm still a secularist who's against Christian theocracy. I don't want 10 Commandment statues on public government property. I'm in favor of people being treated equally and freedom of speech and freedom of expression. Nobody using their own religious dogma to make legislation in a secular nation. But simultaneously, I was willing, of course, to critique the Islamic religion like the Christian religion. I was willing to see unfactual things when they were coming into this movement 10 miles away. And of course, what ended up happening to myself and to plenty of other atheist activists is that we ended up staying where we were on the spectrum, but a lot of our own fellow so-called free thinkers, fellow so-called skeptics, they ended up, landing on the other extreme, criticizing us for being right-wing now. Or being anti-secular now, right? Because we have some people as well who have always been conservatives and libertarians, but have been staunch secularists. There's been this influx of hatred against fellow atheists and against fellow secularists, agnostics, and free thinkers for staying in the exact position as to where they always were, and caring about secularism and caring about Enlightenment values, caring about free speech. But all of a sudden now, we're evil, we're bad, we've somehow changed. When I would argue that people like you, people like me, and people like the vast majority of atheists haven't. That's at least me from the atheist lens. It's been frustrating to me for several years. So when I saw this drawing, Colin, I really resonated with it quite a bit. And I'm very glad to see that the vast majority of people online, at least normal people online, right, are seeing it that way too, especially the new owner of Twitter.
Yeah, it's got, I think, close to 260, maybe over 260,000 retweets, and last I saw 1.6 million likes on Twitter. I don't even know how many impressions that would be on Twitter, but I mean, it's got to be an insane number. So that at least shows there's a signal there that this cartoon that I just made one night in my pajamas just for fun, to sort of I was just working through my own sort of feelings of where how I view myself politically, where like the ground had shifted beneath my feet, and now I'm perceived as this right-wing figure, even though my values haven't changed. It's just where on the political landscape I see my values now best reflected. And it's not even on every single issue. The biggest criticism of the cartoon people had was just like, are you saying the right stood completely still through all this time? And it's like, well, one, it's a political cartoon. It's not a dissertation. Like, the complexities of politics and human behavior and Like it cannot be encapsulated in this little two-dimensional, left-right thing. There's going to be infinite dimensions, and there's probably different ways you could draw the cartoon that would paint a very different picture. But really, this cartoon was, I guess, really around three main issues that I felt were just really core values for me. One of them being free speech, where I would always been, as an atheist, I mean, that's always been the atheist tool belt is, we need to have free speech because, in times when religion can become overbearing, it's a way to speak truth to power. That had been something that has been decidedly like a left-wing view, at least when I was growing up. Now we see a lot of people who are on the left, a lot of woke progressives, they'll use free speech in scare quotes, or they'll say so-called free speech. And they talk about it derisively as like a right-wing talking point. So it's like, that's weird. And then on the issue of sort of, I guess, race relations or racial issues, I see myself as upholding the views in the Civil Rights Act and the Martin Luther King Jr. statement to judge people by the content of their character rather than the color of their skin. That to me was like a left-wing view, and now this has been replaced by identity politics and prioritizing group interests over individual rights. So there's the whole critical race type thing. That's a big issue. And then women's rights. We can't even talk about what a woman is anymore because it's been replaced by an identity instead of biology. So now we see, like, for instance, abortion is a big talking point right now because the Supreme Court seems poised to overturn Roe versus Wade. And we see these editorials coming out in like the Washington Post who don't even use the word woman once. The ACLU can't be, they had a list of like 6 things, and it was like young people are affected by abortion, minorities, LGBT communities. Like, how are gays and lesbians affected?
Why not women? How about just one answer? Yeah. Women being affected.
Yeah, so there's no mention of women. Like, they're distancing themselves from this. And so these are some 3 main core values, and they're just no longer a part of the left in any meaningful way right now. And so, I try not to look in terms of, tribal red versus blue. I just sort of stand back and look at the political spectrum and say, where do I see my values best reflected? And right now they're, just because of how bonkers one side went, at least on these 3 issues, my values are more reflected sort of center right now, I suppose.
I could tell as well by the mannerisms in your voice right now, a mix, if I had to guess, of disappointment in some of these lunatics, but also like I don't know, a way to just showcase, you're showcasing the lunacy of these people in a way that where we, have always seen gender, we can kind of laugh together and see almost how insane some of these people have gone in pushing policies and pushing through education, this ideology, this divisive ideology. So I think you're kind of sick of it sometimes, probably, when you wake up and you see that sometimes things are getting worse, that another institution has crumbled to this ideology, another publisher or another media outlet has caved, another corporation has instituted wokeness as its policy. It's like atheism plus every day, every night, and you have to do this for a living. But as you cited with Elon Musk and that one retweet getting millions of likes and millions of retweets as well, do you think that there is a potential shift that could be happening, a potential turning point, whatever you want to call it, in opposing wokeness? Do you think that there's enough of us who are, rolling our eyes and sounding a little disappointed in our mannerisms, right? Is there enough energy on our end now, politics, or on our end of society and Western culture, to where we're really going to eventually see a real pushback and a real success on a civilizational scale against this stuff?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we're seeing a big political reorganization going around where the classic sort of right versus left, Republican, Democrat, this doesn't really make that much sense anymore. It's not really conservatism versus liberalism anymore. It's really just, I guess you could classify the woke ideology as being very illiberal, very authoritarian in many ways, very dogmatic. And so it's really just kind of a woke versus anti-woke. I really do think that is, in broad strokes, kind of the new organization on what we view for society. People would say that I'm pretty much going to be voting based on my opposition to wokeness, and I don't even see it as a single issue voter. It's not like, oh, I'm just voting based on abortion, because the woke ideology, it's like a lens through which you view everything. It affects so many different things that it's not a single issue. It's like this encompassing worldview that basically makes everything crumble that it touches.